Good day, everyone. Today we are going to tackle about adrenergic sympathomimetic bronchodilators. But before that, let's first define our objective. So at the end of this lesson, we are expected to define sympathomimetic, to define adrenergic, list all currently available beta-adrenergic agents used in respiratory therapy, to differentiate between the specific adrenergic agents and formulations, describe the mode of action for each specific adrenergic agent and formulation, describe the route of administration available for beta agonists, to discuss adverse effects of beta agonists, and to clinically assess beta agonist therapy. So, whenever we're working with drugs, specifically bronchodilator, we have to realize that there's a system, there's a neurotransmitter, and that there's a receptor. That's very important. System, neurotransmitter, and a receptor. So you see, what happened here is that there's a system in our body that releases neurotransmitter to seek out receptor. So this system that we're talking about is a sympathetic nervous system. So if you recall, the sympathetic nervous system is our fight or flight response system inside our body. So in other words, when we get into dangerous situations, feeling situations, or exciting situations, we get that adrenaline rush. We feel it, and that's the sympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system is designed for survival. When the sympathetic nervous system is excited or when it is initiated, a lot of things happen. One of it is it increases cardiac performance, bronchodilation, and reduced mucus production, and all of that. We all like that to happen. So if all of this is a byproduct of our sympathetic nervous system, then we realize that the drugs we give then need to mimic what does the sympathetic nervous system does. That's what we get the name sympathomimetic. So sympatho, it pertains to our sympathetic, and mimetic is to mimic. So we'll get to give a drug that's going to achieve the same goal as what the natural sympathetic nervous system would achieve. We define sympathomimetic as producing effects similar to those of sympathetic nervous system. Now, as we go down in the sympathetic nervous system, when it is initiated, what is released is called norepinephrine. So this is the neurotransmitter at the ineffector site. What does it mean? We're talking about at the site where the effectors change gonna happen. And so what we know is that this is oftentimes referred to as adrenaline. This is where we get the word adrenergic. So we are going to utilize a drug that initiates the same effect as adrenaline. Define adrenergic as an agent that stimulates sympathetic nervous fibers, which allow relaxation for smooth muscle in the airway. Now, the neurotransmitter is good, but only as good as the receptor it can find and bind to. We have receptor kasi that the neurotransmitter binds to within a specific system natin. Meron tayong B1, B2, tayong alpha, and so on and so forth. So, ang B1 natin is responsible for increase in our cardiac effects. That's for our hearts. Ang B2 naman natin or yung beta-2 natin is responsible for bronchodilation for our lungs. And alpha naman is responsible for vessels constriction or the constriction of our systemic vessel. So, ang beta-2 agonist natin, it causes a relaxation of bronchial smooth muscle with some inhibition of inflammatory mediator release and stimulation of mucociliary clearance. When we talk about bronchodilation, we're going to focus lang dito sa beta-2 receptor natin. That is why you see these drugs referred to as beta-2 agonists. It's a drug designed to look like epinephrine that is seeking out a beta-2 receptor, and when it attaches, it will create the same effect as norepinephrine. So the adrenergic bronchodilator group natin, it is used for the treatment ng airway obstruction in diseases such as asthma and COPD. So these agents produce bronchodilation by stimulating beta-2 receptors of airway smooth muscle. So now we discuss the clinical indications for adrenergic bronchodilators. When we say indications, kasi it refers to the specific reason or circumstances under which a particular drug should be used. So the general indication for use of an adrenergic bronchodilator is relaxation of airway smooth muscle in the presence of airflow obstruction, associated with acute and chronic asthma, including yung exercise-induced asthma natin, the bronchitis, emphysema, bronchiectasis, and other obstructive airway diseases. So these adrenergic bronchodilators is further subdivided or classified according to their duration of action and specific clinical use. Okay, we classify them based on duration of action and specific clinical use. We have three. We have the SABA, the short-acting beta-2 agonist, the LABA, the long-acting beta-2 agonist, and also we have the ultra-short-acting beta-2 agonist or the racemic epinephrine. Okay, discuss natin sila one by one. Okay, we have the short-acting beta-2 agonist or what also known as SABA. Okay, it has a duration of 4 to 6 hours. Bronchodilators that rapidly open up airways. They are used for quick relief of airway obstruction, making breathing easier during an asthma attack or other obstructive airway diseases. Ang example ng SABA natin, we have the albuterol, the valbuterol, and pirbuterol. So think of SABAS as the emergency brake. So when a patient is having an acute asthma attack or sudden bronchospasm, this is the drug they reach for because it works almost instantly. So ano nga ba ito nag-work? Nagbabind siya sa beta-2 adrenergic receptors natin sa lungs, causing the smooth muscles to relax and the airways to open, or nagkakaroon ng bronchodilation. Meron siyang onset na 5 to 15 minutes. Ibig sabihin, nagkakaroon na agad siya ng effect within 15 minutes. But as sabi natin kanina na duration niya 4 to 6 hours lang, ibig sabihin short-lived lang siya. Okay, next, we have the long-acting beta-2 agonist or what we know as LABA. It has a duration of up to 12 hours. It is used to maintain bronchodilation and control bronchospasm, especially for patients with asthma or other obstructive airway diseases. These long-acting bronchodilators are taken regularly to prevent symptoms, particularly at night. Example nitong laban natin, we have the salmeterol, formoterol, and arformoterol. So, ang laban natin is a maintenance medication. Kung si SABA kanina natin is for emergency, si laban naman natin ay for cruise control. So, it isn't designed to stop an attack that has already started. Its job is to keep the airways open over a long period to prevent yung attacks from happening in the first place. So, paano siya nag-work? Same mechanism siya as SABA, but the molecular structure allows it to sit on the receptor much longer. Meron siyang onset na mas mabagal compared kay SABA natin, which ang onset ng itong laban natin is 15 to 30 minutes bago magkaroon ng effect. So, take note that LABA should never be used alone for asthma. They're almost always paired with an inhaled corticosteroid to manage inflammation. We have number 3, racemic epinephrine ay tinatawag natin na or kinaklasify natin na ultra short acting. Meron siya kasing duration na less than 3 hours lang. It is a mixture of two isomers that has a strong alpha-adrenergic vasoconstricting effect, often used either as an inhaled aerosol or by direct lung instillation. Itong racemic epinephrine natin is an upper airway specialist. This is a bit of a wild card compared sa two other na nauna, which is the SABA and LABA. While SABA and LABA are specific sa lower airways lang natin or sa bronchioles natin, itong racemic epinephrine natin is often used for upper airway swelling. So, paano siya gumagana? Paano siya nag-work? It is a non-specific agonist, meaning it hits alpha and beta receptors. The alpha receptor stimulation is the secret sauce. So, here, it causes vasoconstriction, which reduces yung mucosal edema natin or swelling in the throat. Meron siyang onset na mabilis compared sa other two naman sa una, which is itong racemic epinephrine natin, meron siyang 1 to 5 minutes na onset. So, but pag nag-take ka ng racemic epinephrine, you should also monitor or you should watch out sa rebound effect nito. Ano tong rebound effect na to? So once the drug kasi naubos na yung yung effect niya. Or natapos na yung, nabigay niya na sa'yo yung need mong gamot, or na-wear off na siya, pwedeng bumalik yung swelling. At pag bumalik yung swelling, pwedeng mas malala pa siya compared sa naunang pag-swell niya. So, itong Rasamicapinephrine natin, it is unstable. They cannot be taken orally. So, kasi yung digestive system natin will destroy them before they even reach sa lungs natin. Okay, let's discuss naman the specific adrenergic agents and formulations. We have 7 specific adrenergic and formulation. I-discuss natin yan one by one. We have number 1, we have the catecholamine. Number 2, the resorcinol agent. 3, the salicylic agent. 4, pyrbuterol. 5, prodrug bitalterol. 6, the valbuterol R isomer of albuterol. 7 is the long-acting beta-adrenergic agents. Okay, isa-isahin natin yan. Saan Wait lang guys. So we have a catecholamine, number 1. Ang catecholamine natin is a chemical compound consisting of a catechol nucleus, a benzene ring with 2 hydroxyl groups, and an amine side chain. As you can see dito sa structure, this is sa left side, this is the catechol nucleus. At sa right side niya naman, meron siyang side chain. Notice that sa third at fourth position, meron siyang third at fourth position dito sa, look at this catechol nucleus. Makikita mo yung niya, yung benzene ring niya, meron siyang dalawang hydroxyl group sa third at fourth na position. Take note of that guys ha, third and fourth position sa catecholamine. Tandaan yan kasi may magagamit natin yan mamaya kapag napag-usapan na natin yung ibang mga gamot. So, the these catecholamine are the original bronchodilators modeled after the body's natural hormones. So they are very powerful but short-lived. They are rapidly broken down by the enzyme COMT in our bodies. Mamaya pag-usapan natin on how they are being broken down or how they are being metabolized sa katawan natin. Itong catecholamine natin, they are unstable. Unstable yung structure nila. Kaya hindi mo sila pwedeng i-take orally. So, yung digestive system kasi natin, it would destroy them before they even reach yung lungs natin. Example nito, we have the dopamine, the epinephrine, the norepinephrine, isoproterenol, and isoethylene. So, this is an example of the catecholamine na epinephrine. Tama, nasa third at fourth position, yung sa third and fourth position, yung hydroxyl groups nila. Okay, let's talk about adrenergic bronchodilators naman as stereoisomers. Ang adrenergic bronchodilators kasi, nag-exist siya as stereoisomers due to the rotation around the carbon atom on the ethylamine side chain. So, these stereoisomers include the R isomer, also known as levo isomers, and S isomers, also known as dextroisomers. The levo isomers is levo, it means sa left, and dextro, it means sa right, diba? So, okay. Define naman natin kung ano tong stereoisomers. What does stereoisomers mean? So in simple terms, ang stereoisomers daw are the molecules that have the same chemical formula and the same connectivity but differ in those atoms are arranged. So think of it like your left and right hands. They have the same components. Meron silang 4 fingers. Tapos may isang thumb attached in the same order, but no matter how you rotate them, your right hand and left hand will never perfectly overlap with each other. So while they share similar physical and chemical properties, their physiologic effects differ significantly. Yung R isomer natin, mas active siya. Okay. Itong R isomer natin or yung levo isomer natin, mas active siya sa beta-2 receptor sa airways natin, kaya nagpo-promote siya ng bronchodilation. While yung S isomer naman natin, less active siya and has historically been considered inert. When we say historically considered inert, it means that the substance had no chemical or biological action on the body. So this is the structure for our dextrorotatory and for our levorotatory. We also have here the keyhole theory of beta-2 specificity. Keyhole theory of beta-2 specificity explains how catecholamine achieve beta-2 specificity. The theory posits that the larger the side chain attached to the catechol base, the greater the specificity for beta-2 receptors. So, think of the catecholamine molecule natin as a key. The larger the side chain, the more precise it fits the beta-2 receptor keyhole. The Nazi metabolism of catecholamine. Ang catecholamine natin are rapidly inactivated in the body through metabolism by the enzyme COMT or the catechol o methyltransferase. Yung COMT natin, nag-a-add siya ng methyl group sa catechol nucleus, converting catecholamines into inactive methanephines. So, by changing the chemical structure, the molecules can no longer bind to adrenergic receptors. It becomes a methanephine na siya, which is an inactive metabolite eventually excreted in urine. In the gut naman ng liver, meron tayong tinatawag na conjugation enzymes. Inactivate substances by adding sulfate or glucuronide specifically at the carbon 4 position. So, this makes the compound highly water-soluble and completely inactive, allowing the body to flush it out through the kidneys almost immediately after ingestion. So this explains why catecholamines, specifically as drugs, are usually injected rather than swallowed as pills. So additionally, catecholamines are heat, light, and air sensitive, forming inert adrenocorms when exposed. So this instability requires careful storage and handling. Catecholamines are chemically anxious molecules that reacts easily with their environment. So when exposed to heat, light, or oxygen, catecholamines nag-undergo siya ng oxidation. So the visible sign of this breakdown is the formation ng adrenochromes natin, which is often turn the solution into a pinkish or brownish color. Once a catecholamine has oxidized into an adrenochrome, it is pharmacologically inert or nagiging useless na siya. This is why epinephrine or yung auto-injectors natin or yung EpiPen na tinatawag natin have a small window to check for discoloration and why these meds are often stored in amber color vials. Number 2, meron tayong tinatawag na resorcinol agents. So, ang resorcinol agents natin are class of medications that modify the catecholamine structure. Take note, guys, that it modify the catecholamine structure. So, unlike catecholamines, resorcinols are not inactivated by COMT enzymes, leading to a longer duration of action, which is 4 to 6 hours. They are often beta-2 preferential, enhancing bronchodilation without activating other receptors. Example nitong resorcinol agents natin, we have the metaproterenol. Okay, look at the structure of our metaproterenol. Yan yung structure niya. It is modification, modified siya ni catecholamine. Di ba sabi natin kanina na si catecholamine yung hydroxyl group niya nasa third and fourth. But look at this resorcinol agent. Nasa third at nasa fifth siya. So, a chemical shift that lead to a longer, itong resorcinol natin is a chemical shift that led to a longer lasting relief. So, example nito yung metaproterenol na sinasabi natin, di ba? So, scientists modified yung catechol ring by shifting a hydroxyl group to the fifth position. This small change makes the drug resistance to the COMT enzyme. So, because they aren't broken down as fast, they last longer, up to 6 hours, and were the first adrenergic agents suitable for oral tablets. Ang resorcinol agents natin must prefer siya for maintenance therapy due to their longer duration and stability against COMT inactivation. Number 3, we have the salicylic agents. Itong salicylic agents natin are a class of bronchodilators that share a modification on the catechol nucleus at the carbon 3 site. Unlike catecholamines, which break down quickly, and resorcinols that are less potent, salicylates offer a balance of oral effectiveness, beta-2 preferential bronchodilation, and a longer duration of action. Example itong salicylic agents natin is albuterol. Look at the structure of albuterol. But it is a modified catechol din siya, nucleus. Pero yung modification niya nangyari sa carbon 3 site. Yes. So it is high safety and lung specific action. It is mas selective sila, o meron siyang beta-2 uh, preferential or selectivity receptor sa lungs natin rather than beta-1 receptor sa heart. So they provide a rapid onset within 5 to 15 minutes lang siya with fewer cardiac side effects like palpitations or heart racing compared to older drugs. Ang salicylic kasi natin, namomodify siya sa catechol nucleus, di ba? Sa carbon 3 sites, specifically sa carbon 3 sites. Carbon 3 position by replacing yung 1-hydroxyl groups natin with the hydroxymethyl. Kita mo naman sa number 3 position. Instead of hydroxyl group lang andyan, na-modify yung catechol na structure na yun, pinalitan siya ng hydroxymethyl group. So this change makes the molecule more stable, prevents rapid breakdown, and increases its selective binding to beta-2 adrenergic receptor. Itong albuterol, it is commonly called as salbutamol. Salbutamol. Okay. Itong beta-2 preferential effect ng albuterol, it means it primarily binds to a beta-2 adrenergic receptors in our lungs, specifically sa bronchial smooth muscles natin. So when albuterol activates these receptors, it causes the muscles to relax, widening your airways and improving airflow, which is known as bronchodilation. This selectivity is advantageous because it minimizes yung side effects. Albuterol's bioavailability is only about 30 to 50% because of first-pass metabolism in the liver. So this means some of the drug is processed and reduced before it can even reach your lungs. Despite this, oral administration offers convenience and longer lasting effects compared to inhalers. So ang albuterol natin available siya sa various pharmaceutical vehicles which allows for different methods of administration to suit individual needs. Pwede siyang through oral extended release tablets, provide siya ng long-lasting effect. Ideal siya sa consistent control. Pwede rin siyang through syrup. It's easy to swallow, particularly useful siya for children. Pwede rin siyang through nebulizer solution. It allows for direct inhalation of the medication. And lastly, pwede siyang through MDI or metered dose inhaler. Delivers a controlled dose directly to the lungs. So when you take albuterol, it starts working within 30 to 60 minutes. Reaching its peak effect, it lasts up to 6 hours, providing longer relief compared to catecholamines, which work faster but don't last as long, and resorcinols, which have a shorter peak. Number 4, we have the pirbuterol. Pirbuterol is a non-catecholamine adrenergic agent. Take note it is a non-catecholamine used to treat asthma. It acts on beta-2 receptors to relax airway muscle, similar to the other beta-2 agonists, but without the catecholamine structure. So this structure, itong structure nitong pirbuterol, hindi yan catecholamine structure. It is different from the previous na discuss natin. So, ang pirbuterol natin, it is an albuterol alternative with a unique breath-actuated delivery. Ang breath-actuated means the device is triggered by the patient's inhalation rather than pressing a button or canister. It is chemically similar to albuterol but uses a pyrimidine ring. So, ang pirbuterol natin is administered via an MDI or metered dose inhaler with a typical dosage of 2 puffs, each containing 0.2 milligrams of pirbuterol acetate. For example, for an asthma patient, administer siya ng 2 puffs, ganun. Tapos, ang total ng 2 puffs na yun is 0.5 milligrams. It's given as needed to alleviate bronchospasm symptoms. It offers the same 4 to 6 hours duration of action while less common today, it was famous for the autohaler, a device that fired automatically when the patient inhaled, solving the problem of pressing and breathing at the wrong time. Number 5, we have the prodrug, that is bitalterol. Ano nga ba tong prodrug na to? When we talk about prodrug, or when we say prodrug, it is a medication that needs to be converted into its active form muna inside our body bago siya maka-start na mag-work. So, bitalterol structures includes two toluene ester groups on the aromatic ring at the carbon 3 and carbon 4 positions, protecting it from degradation by COMT. A large and tertiary butyl substituent on the amine side chain prevents oxidation by MAO. So bitalterol becomes active through a process called hydrolysis. So this happens when esterase enzyme in the body break down the protective toluene ester groups attached to the aromatic ring. So once these groups are removed, bitalterol converts into colterol, the active bronchodilator. So once colterol is active, it is inactivated by the enzyme COMT, catechol O methyltransferase. However, this inactivation is balanced out by the gradual conversion of bitalterol into colterol, which ensures a prolonged bronchodilating effect. So, as you saw previously, sabi natin kanina, di ba, yung COMT, normally, ina-attack niya si hydroxyl group at the third and fourth position ng catechol ring. Pero sa bitalterol, these hydroxyl groups are masked or covered by two toluene ester groups. So, because the catechol ring is now physically blocked by these bulky esters, yung COMT enzyme naman natin, hindi niya mahanap yung target niya para maka-add siya ng methyl group. So, these esters make the drug more fat-soluble or lipophilic, helping it penetrate lung tissues better when inhaled. So, once inside the body, enzymes called esterases slowly snip these shields off, releasing the active drug, colterol, over time. Itong MAO natin or yung monoamine oxidase natin is the other major enzyme na nagde-destroy ng catecholamine by attacking the nitrogen-containing side chain, di ba? A large and tertiary butyl substituent is attached to the amine or nitrogen end of the molecule. So, think of this as a bulky shield around the nitrogen atom. Yung MAO enzyme na is physically unable to get close enough sa nitrogen natin para maka-start ng oxidation process because the tertiary butyl group takes up too much space. So, the specific butyl shape also makes the drug more beta-2 selective, meaning it focuses on opening the airways in the lungs rather than accidentally stimulating the heart, which is the beta-1 effect. Number 6, we have the levalbuterol, R isomer of albuterol. So, ang levalbuterol, R isomer of albuterol is an albuterol. Yung parent drug natin, it comes in two forms kasi called isomers. An R isomer at S isomer, di ba? So, ang levalbuterol is special because it only contains yung R isomer. This pure form makes it more effective and can reduce yung side effects. This is the structure of our levalbuterol. The S isomer of albuterol has some interesting effects in our body kasi it can counteract the bronchodilating effects of the R isomer, making it harder to breathe. It might contribute to bronchoconstriction, causing airways to narrow. It stays in your system longer since it is more slowly metabolized than the R isomer. So these effects explain why using pure R isomer, as in levalbuterol, can be more effective and have fewer side effects than racemic albuterol. So itong R isomer ng albuterol natin is metabolized quicker kaysa kay RS isomer. Ibig sabihin, mas nakiklear ng body natin yung active na R isomer kaysa mas nakiklear niya na mas mabilis niyang maklear yung R isomer compared sa inactive na S isomer. Kasi kaysa kay inactive na S isomer kaya nag-i-stay siya longer sa system natin. So, research suggests the R isomer provides all the bronchodilation while yung S isomer natin might actually cause side effects or inflammation. Yan na yung sinabi natin kanina na side effects na ginagawa ng S isomer sa katawan natin. We also have the long-acting beta-adrenergic agents or yung laban natin. Di ba natakal na natin kanina kasi kasali pa rin siya dito. So, ang long-acting beta-agonist natin or yung labas natin are bronchodilators that provide extended relief by relaxing and widening the airways in your lungs for up to 12 hours. Itong laban natin, ang example niya, meron siyang 5 example. We have the extended release albuterol, salmeterol, formoterol, arformoterol, and indacaterol. Okay, isa-isahin na naman natin yan, guys. We have first, extended release albuterol. And ang extended release albuterol natin, it is also known as Vospar ER, is a type of albuterol designed to last longer than regular albuterol. So, ang regular albuterol kasi nagpo-provide siya ng immediate relief but lasts only a few hours, requiring frequent doses. Ang Vospar ER natin, on the other hand, it keeps working for up to 12 hours with just one tablet. So this helps you manage asthma symptoms throughout the day without having to take multiple doses. So the immediate release coating dissolves quickly. Meron kasing layer ang extended release albuterol natin. Meron siyang dalawang layer. We have the immediate release coating at controlled release core. Ang immediate release coating natin, nadi-dissolve siya quickly, giving you fast relief from asthma symptoms. So ang controlled release core naman natin then gradually releases albuterol over several hours, extending the medicine's effectiveness up to 12 hours. So yung immediate release coating natin, siya yung nagpo-provide ng rapid relief. Meron siyang 2 milligrams ng albuterol. Si controlled release score naman natin, mas ina-ensure na yung sustained relief natin. Meron din siyang 2 milligrams ng albuterol. The extended release mechanism of Vospar ER relies on 2 key process. Nag-rely siya sa osmotic gradient at sa pinhole diffusion natin. So, osmotic gradient natin is a tablet throws water into its core, dissolving the albuterol. Yung pinhole diffusion naman natin, the dissolved albuterol gradually releases through a tiny pinhole in the tablet. Number 2, we have the salmeterol. Salmeterol is a medication that acts as a beta-2 selective receptor agonist. Salmeterol is available in a dry powder formulation delivered through a viscous inhaler. The drug exists as salmeterol synaphoate, a racemic mixture of 2 isomers. The R isomer is the primary one responsible for the beta-2 receptor activation. So, when you inhale salmeterol synaphoate, it enters your bloodstream in 2 phases. Meron tayong first peak at meron din tayong second peak. So initially, it reaches a peak sa first peak, it reaches a peak plasma concentration of 1 to 2 milligrams about 5 minutes after inhalation. This is the first peak. Yan yung first peak. Nagkukos siya ng immediate absorption. Sa second peak naman natin, meron siyang 0.07 to 0.2 milligrams per liter na concentration na nag-occur siya around 45 minutes. So the second peak is likely due to the medication you swallowed during inhalation being absorbed into your system. Focus siya ng swallowed dose absorption. So salmeterol is metabolized in your body through a process called hydroxylation. So this breaks down the drug into smaller substances. It's then primarily eliminated from the body through the feces. Its lipophilicity or fat solubility is key to its long-lasting effect. So we have number 3 for Moterol. It is used in long-term management of asthma and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or or the COPD. It's a key part of maintenance therapy to help keep airways open and prevent symptoms from recurring. So additionally, it can be used before exercise to prevent exercise-induced bronchospasm. So formoterol can interact with several medications affecting its efficacy and safety. Pwede siyang maki-interact sa bronchodilators, sa beta blockers at sa diuretics. So kapag nagkaroon siya ng interaction sa bronchodilators, ang medication na involved dito is the albuterol. Nagkakaroon siya ng additive bronchodilation. But we need to monitor for excessive heart stimulation and tremors kapag kapag nagkaroon ng interaction itong dalawang to. Kapag nagkaroon naman siya ng interaction sa beta blockers, na ang medication na involved dito, for example, the propranolol, ang effect niya is the reduction of formoterol's bronchodilatory effect. But ang precaution niya, it is used with counting, may require dosage adjustment. Kapag sa diuretics naman, ang medication na involved dito, you have the furosemide. Ang effect is increasing risk of hypokalemia. we should monitor for potassium levels. Consider supplements if needed. So when using formoterol, here's what to keep in mind. Yung dosage niya, take 12 milligram twice daily with aerosolizer or 8.5 milligram with a Certihaler. Follow doctor's instruction. Inhalation technique niya naman is to inhale deeply, hold breath for 10 seconds, then exhale slowly. Use a spacer if needed. Side effects niya, watch for rapid heart rate or tremors. Contact your doctor if severe side effects occur. Number 4, we have the R4-Moterol. Ang R4-Moterol natin, it works as a beta-2 selective agonist. This means it targets and activates beta-2 receptors in the lungs. So when these receptors are stimulated, they cause an increase in CAMP levels within the bronchial smooth muscle cells. Pag higher yung CAMP levels natin, it lead to relaxation of these muscles, resulting in wider airways. R4-Moterol must be administered via nebulization only. Number 5, we have the Indacaterol. It is a ultra-long-acting beta-agonist. It is commonly administered via a dry powder inhaled. Indacaterol's regulatory status and availability are straightforward. It's approved in Europe as on-breast breeze healer. It's awaiting approval in the United States as Arcapta Neohaler. So, meron din tayong discuss din natin yung anti-inflammatory effects ng laban natin. So inhibiting mast cell activation and degranulation, preventing increased vascular permeability with inflammatory mediators, diminishing attraction and accumulation of airway inflammatory cells. So national guidelines recommend introducing LABA in step 3 care of asthma if lower doses of anti-inflammatory medications don't control the condition. So LABAs have anti-inflammatory effects kasi sa laboratory setting natin. This means they can reduce inflammation by mare-reduce nila yung inflammation kapag na-inhibit nila yung mast cell activation at degranulation. Pag na-prevent nila yung increase ng vascular permeability with inflammatory mediators, at kapag na-diminish yung attraction and accumulation of airway inflammatory cells natin. So, think of LABA as a firefighters putting out flames or inflammation sa controlled environment natin. So, in asthma management naman, treatment is escalated kung ang step to which usually involves is a daily low dose inhaled corticosteroid or ICS natin, it fails to stop symptoms. So the patient still has frequent wheezing, nighttime wake-ups, or needs their rescue inhaler too often. Instead of simply doubling the steroid dose, which could increase side effects like thrush or hoarseness, guidelines recommend adding a long-acting agonist or yung LABA natin. So why? So when you combine kasi yung anti-inflammatory natin, which is the inhaled corticosteroid with a LABA, we treat the two main components of asthma simultaneously. Kasi yung ICS natin or yung anti-inflammatory natin, kiniklear na yung mucus at swelling inside sa airway walls natin. So yung LABA natin, yung bronchodilator natin, nire-relax na yung smooth muscle bands wrapping around outside of the airways for 12 plus hours. A LABA should never be used alone. Monotherapy ang tawag doon kapag ginamit mo lang siya alone for asthma. It must always be paired with an ICS or yung inhaled corticosteroid natin because the LABA masks the symptoms of inflammation without actually treating the underlying swelling, which can be dangerous. For the next reporter, ready na ba? Next reporter.
Okay, thank you, Ella. So before we head on sa mode of actions, let me just give you an overview of adrenergic receptors stimulation. The clinical effects of receptor activation. The alpha receptor causes vasoconstriction used in the upper airway for nasal decongestion. The B1 receptor increases myocardial conductivity, heart rate, and contractile force. The B2 receptor causes relaxation of bronchial smooth muscle and some inhibition of inflammatory mediators release. So dito natin makikita kung ano ang effect ng gamot sa ating katawan. Sa asthma, B2 receptor ang ginagamit para lumuwag ang baga. Minsan nadadamay ang B1 receptor kaya bumibilis ang tibok ng puso ng patient. Ang alpha receptor naman is ginagamit para sa mga baradong ilong, para to shrink down yung ating blood vessels para mabawasan ang pamamaga. Next. So, meron tayong tatlong mode of actions. The beta receptor, bronchodilation, the alpha receptor, vasoconstriction, and the alpha 2 receptor, the inhibition. Next po. So, first, the B receptor bronchodilation is that signaling pathway for airway relaxation. The B agonist attaches to the receptor, activates the GS stimulatory, activates adenylyl cyclase, increases the CAMP or the cyclic adenosine monophosphate, which results to muscle relaxation. So, ito yung parang step by step kung paano lumuluwag ang paghinga, ang ating paghinga. So, kunwari, ang drug, for example, ang albuterol, attached siya sa receptor, nag-act siya as a key to turn on ang ating GS stimulatory, then switches on adenylyl cyclase to produce more CAMP. So, sa lungs, isipin natin na ang CAMP, siya yung chemical signal that tells the muscles to stop contracting and relax, which opens the airways. Next. The alpha-1 receptor, the vasoconstriction, the signaling pathway for muscle contraction. The alpha-1 agonist attaches to the receptor, activates the GQ, activates the phospholysis C, produce IP3 or ang ating inositol 1,4,5 triphosphate, and DAG or ating diacylglycerol, which results to muscle contraction. Dito naman, kabaliktaran naman ito ng D2 receptor. Dito, gumagamit siya ng GQ to release calcium inside the cell. Take note na kapag may calcium, nagkukos siya sa muscle to squeeze leading to vasoconstriction. So clinically, ginagamit natin to shrink swollen blood vessels in nose to relieve congestion. Next. A2 receptor inhibition or ang ating feedback brake system. The alpha-2 agonist attaches to the receptor, activates the GI inhibitory, inhibits the adenylyl cyclase, decreases the CAMP, which results to inhibit further neurotransmitter release or acting as a brake. So dito naman, ito yung preno ng system natin. So imbis na ini-stimulate, binablock ng GI inhibitory ang production ng CAMP. So this prevents the sympathetic nervous system from overstimulating the body and keep response under control. Kaya siya tinawag na brake system. Next. Sustained action salmeterol's unique mode of action while long-acting beta agonist persists. So bakit nga ba mas matagal ang effect ng salmeterol? Kasi meron siyang tail na lipophilic or fat-loving na naka-attach sa cell membrane. Yung tail niya is naka-anchor sa tinatawag nating exosite. So kahit ma-attach siya sa receptor, hindi siya naliligaw, kaya pwede siyang pabalik-balik sa pag-stimulate ng receptor, kaya umaabot siya ng approximately 12 hours, hindi gaya ng albuterol na mabilis mawala. Next po. So, comparison of cellular responses, parang ito na yung summary table natin. So, kapag alpha-1, ang G protein niya is GQ, for contraction of blood vessel. Kapag alpha-2, GI naman, ito naman ang ating inhibit or ang ating brake system. Kapag B naman or GS, ito naman ang stimulate sa lungs. For next topic na po, si Miss Carla.
Next, I will be discussing the routes of administrations, specifically focusing on bronchodilator or beta agonists and how they are given to patients with asthma and other airway diseases. Which is the inhalation route, oral route, and parenteral route. First is the inhalation route, which is considered the preferred route for bronchodilators especially in asthma. So these drugs are delivered directly to the lungs using devices such as metered dose inhaler, nebulizer, or dry powder inhaler. Catecholamines such as epinephrine and albuterol must be inhaled dahil they are ineffective when they taken orally. So in simple terms, kapag nilunok sila, they will not work properly due to metabolism in the body. So the advantages of the inhalation route include rapid onset, meaning mabilis ang effect because the drug goes straight to the lungs. Smaller doses are needed since there is a direct delivery, fewer systemic side effects such as tremor and tachycardia, direct delivery to the lungs. It is safe and painless. However, there are also limitations. So, kailangan din ng correct technique, especially with MDIs. And also, nebulization is time-consuming, usually 5 to 10 minutes. And some patients, pwede nilang ma-feel embarrassed using inhalers in public. Next is continuous nebulization. So this is used for severe asthma, particularly during acute exacerbations. So the recommended dose is 10 to 15 mg per hour of albuterol according to NAEPP EPR3 or National Asthma Education and Prevention Program Expert Panel Report 3. So continuous nebulization can improve forced expiratory volume in 1 second more rapidly in patients with severe airway obstruction. So however, this method requires a close monitoring due to possible side effects such as arrhythmias or abnormal heart rhythm, tremor, hypokalemia, and hyperglycemia. Next is the oral route. So this route is easy and simple, and it provides a predictable dosage since tablets is nagko-contain ng fixed amount. So however, the onset is mas mabagal, usually starting around 1.5 hours. So the peak effect occurs at 1 to 2 hours and the duration lasts 3 to 6 hours. So because oral medication require large doses, they are associated with more systemic side effects such as palpitations and or nervousness. So some non-catecholamines may lose their beta-2 specificity due to first pass effect. Alam naman na natin na first pass effect means the drug is metabolized by the liver before reaching circulation. So despite this, oral therapy is useful for patients with better compliance, meaning mas nasusunod nila ang pag-inom ng gamot kaysa sa paggamit ng inhaler. So there are also extended release forms of albuterol such as yung Repetap and Volmax which allow prolonged drug action. Next is parenteral route, which includes subcutaneous or SC and intravenous or IV administration. So this route is mainly used in the emergency management of acute asthma. Examples include epinephrine given 0.3 mg every 15 to 20 minutes with a maximum of 1 mg within 2 hours, terbutaline given 0.25 mg repeatable after 15 to 30 minutes with a maximum of 0.5 mg in 4 hours. So IV isoproterenol or albuterol may be given but are not routinely preferred. The IV route requires cardiac monitoring because of the risk of tachycardia. IV isopretanol should be avoided in acute asthma, and beta-2 specific agents are preferred dahil they target the lungs more than the heart.
So before we head on, Dapat nating maintindihan na ang mga side effects na ito yung mga unwanted effects na hindi na intended sa ating therapeutic goal. So first, we have ang ating next po, ang ating muscle tremor. It is caused by the stimulation of B receptor in skeletal muscle. Dose related, sabi dito, the higher the dose, the greater the tremor. The dose-limiting side effect, especially with oral administration. So, patients often develop a tolerance to the tremor after days or weeks of use. So, ang muscle tremor, ito yung pinaka-common na side effect at tinatawag din itong dose-limiting. Ibig sabihin kapag sobrang taas na ng dose, dito na magsimulang manginig ang patient dahil sa stimulation ng B2 receptor sa ating skeletal muscle. Mas pansin ito kapag iniinom ang gamot kaysa nilalanghap. Pero nawawala din ito gaya nga nasabi dito kasi nagkaka-tolerance ang patient kapag matagal nang nagamit. Next. Cardiac effects. Tachycardia and palpitations can occur due to peripheral vasodilation or direct stimulation of B receptors in the heart. Safety monitoring, clinicians accept no more than 20% increase in pre-treatment pulse. So sabi as a clinicians, meron tayong 20% rule na kailangang i-monitor. Kailangan i-monitor ang patient before, during, and after treatment. At kapag lumagpas na sa 20% ang 20% ang baseline, kailangan na natin i-instruct ito na itigil ang treatment at i-prescribe na sa ating physician. Next. Tolerance to bronchodilator effect. Reduce effectiveness of the drug with repeated use. Mechanisms. Acute desensitization happens within minutes. Receptor becomes uncoupled from its effector enzyme. Downregulation is a long-term reduction in the actual number of B receptors. Corticosteroid synergy can reverse desensitization, increasing receptor expression. Dito naman, with repeated use, the body starts to adapt to the drug, a process called desensitization. Interestingly, research shows that adding corticosteroid can help reverse this by upregulating or increasing the number of receptor available. Next. The loss of bronchoprotection. So, merong pagkakaiba between a drug's ability to open the airways and its ability to protect them from triggers. So while the bronchodilating effect might remain stable, the bronchoprotective effect, which prevents reactions to things like cold or allergens, tends to decline much faster with regular use. So this can lead to increased bronchial hyperresponsiveness over time. Next. Central nervous system. Headache, nervousness, irritability, and anxiety, often related to direct central nervous system stimulation or the physical sensation of muscle tremor. So, minsan, yung nervousness na nafe-feel ng patient is actually a reaction to the physical muscle tremors they are experiencing. So, if these symptoms become excessive, we need to evaluate if the dosage is too high for the patient. Next. The fall in arterial oxygen pressure caused by an increase in perfusion to poorly ventilated portion of the lungs. The VQ mismatch, this increases the ventilation-perfusion mismatch. Sabi nga dito, bumabalik din siya within 30 minutes kasi maliit lang naman yung drops nito. Usually nasa 10 mmHg. Next po. Metabolic disturbances. The glucose and insulin B agonists can increase blood glucose and insulin levels. Hypokalemia, these drugs can increase serum potassium levels by enhancing the transport of potassium into the intracellular compartment. So high doses of B agonists can cause metabolic shifts. So specifically, they can draw potassium out of the blood and into the cells, leading to hypokalemia. They can also cause an increase in blood glucose and insulin levels, gaya nga ng sabi dito. While these effects are minimal with standard inhaled doses, they are major consideration for patients receiving high dose or patients with continuous nebulization, especially kung diabetic sila. Next. Propellant toxicity and paradoxical bronchospasm. A metered dose inhaler powered by chlorofluorocarbon can cause bronchospasm in hyperreactive airways. The CFS can cause bronchospasm. About 7% of subjects using a placebo with propellant experience a significant decrease in FEV1. So dry powder inhalers or nebulizers are ideal if patient is sensitive to propellants. Next. Sensitivity to additives. So finally, we must look at the inactive ingredients. So additives like sulfites such as preservatives can trigger bronchoconstriction in asthmatic patient. So other chemicals like benzalkonium chloride or EDTA can cause irritate the airway muscle. For patients requiring frequent or continuous treatments, it is recommended to use only additive-free sterile unit dose solutions. Next po for Carla.
Compatibility of other agents with bronchodilators. Next po. So, compatibility of other agents with bronchodilators. So, respiratory therapies often mix medications in nebulizers. Although most combinations are not FDA approved, studies show compatibility. Albuterol is compatible with ipratropium, cromolyn, budesonide, tobramycin, and colistin. Levalbuterol is compatible with ipratropium, cromolyn, acetylcysteine, and budesonide for 30 minutes at room temperature. Formoterol is compatible with ipratropium, cromolyn, acetylcysteine, and budesonide. However, antibiotics should be administered separately and nebulizer function must be monitored carefully. Next po. Beta agonist controversy. So now let's move on to the beta agonist controversy. So this is related to what we call the asthma paradox. Even though we now have better and more effective asthma medication, there was a rise in asthma morbidity and mortality at one point. So because of this, concerns were raised about the possible role of beta agonists, especially in their link to near-death asthma events, worsening yung clinical outcomes, and also the increase in airway hyperreactivity. So in general, short-acting beta agonists like albuterol and long-acting beta agonists like salmeterol are not consistently linked to significant worsening of asthma. So however, some long-acting agents have been associated with an increased risk of hospitalization when not used properly. So it has also been observed that the regular use of phenoterol and isoproterenol may actually worsen asthma control, which raise more concern about over-reliance on certain beta agonists. Next po. Potential factors for worsening asthma. So what are the possible reasons why asthma can worsen despite beta agonist use? First, beta agonists provide a temporary symptom relief. So they open the airways quickly, which makes the patient feel better, pero this can mask the true severity of asthma and lead to delayed medical care. Second, beta agonists do not treat the underlying airway inflammation, which is the main problem in asthma. Third, in racemic beta agonists, there can be an accumulation of the S isomer, which may contribute to worsening asthma control and increase airway hyperreactivity over time. Fourth, environmental pollution and lifestyle changes can also increase airway irritation, making asthma harder to control. Fifth, allergic individuals may contribute exposing themselves to triggers because they feel relief after using beta agonists, even though inflammation continues to progress silently. And lastly, poor patient education or poor compliance can result in insufficient use of anti-inflammatory therapy such as inhaled corticosteroid. So ang takeaway dito is that beta agonists must always be used with anti-inflammatory therapy and environmental control following NAEPP guidelines. So beta agonists are rescue medication only and do not treat airway inflammation. Next po, please. Next po. Now, I will discuss the respiratory care assessment of beta agonist therapy, which is essential in determining if the treatment is effective and safe. Before treatment, the therapist assesses for reversible airflow obstruction, meaning if airway narrowing can still improve with medication. So this is done using peak flow meters, which measure how fast the patient exhales, spirometry, which gives detailed lung function values. So we also assess breathing rate, breathing pattern, and breath sounds. Wheezing, diminished breath sounds, or use of accessory muscles indicate obstruction. The pulse rate is monitored. A 20% increase in heart rate may indicate excessive beta agonist effect and require therapy adjustment. During treatment and short-term assessment. So during treatment, we assess the patient's subjective response. So we ask if breathing feels easier or if there are changes in effort or pattern. For patients with acute asthma or COPD, we may monitor oxygen saturation or ABGs to assess ventilation and oxygenation. So if high doses of beta agonists are used, especially during continuous nebulization or emergency treatment, we also monitor for systemic effects such as the increased blood glucose, decreased potassium levels. So we also observe for tremors, palpitations, or signs of cardiac stress. Next is long-term monitoring. So for long-term monitoring, we monitor pulmonary function tests including lung volumes, capacities, and airflow over time. So patients are taught how to use peak flow meters properly so they can recognize worsening asthma early and follow an action plan. Patient education is very important. So they must understand that beta agonists do not treat airway inflammation gaya ng sabi ko kanina, and that poor response means additional or stronger anti-inflammatory therapy may be needed. So we also ensure the patient is using the aerosol device correctly, whether it's an SVN, MDI, or DPI, and that they know how to clean properly. Assessment for long-acting beta agonists. So for patient using long-acting beta agonists, we assess pre-dose of FEV1 or forced expiratory volume in 1 second, variability in peak expiratory flow, frequency of rescue inhaler use, presence of nocturnal symptoms, number of exacerbation clinic visits, or hospitalizations. We also evaluate whether the patient can reduce their inhaled corticosteroid dose, which indicates yung good asthma control. So next is the general considerations. So in general, beta agonists are considered safe, but regular long-term use alone is not recommended. So patients with cardiac conditions should be closely monitored due to possible side effects like tachycardia. So lastly, patients with chronic respiratory diseases such as asthma or COPD may become less responsive over time, so regular reassessment is essential. So that is for the general respiratory care assessment of beta agonist therapy. So that concludes our discussion. Thank you.